Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar today. We're going to be presenting AEBG Data Integrity Report Cleanup, presented by Patty Long with CASAS. For everyone who is joining us today, please post any questions you have into the chat pod. Also, please read the notes section as there is very important information in there. Some of the information I'll go over is if you need to dial in, we have the telephone number as well as the passcode provided. If you are in need of any technical, please contact AEBG tab and use the support request button on aebg.org. If you need to email us directly, please email us at tap@aebg.org, or you can give us a telephone call at our new 800 number, which is 888-TAP-AEBG. That's 888-827-2324. Immediately following this presentation, you will receive an evaluation. It will automatically appear on your screen. Please, please, please fill out this evaluation, as it is our way of being able to provide and to improve our webinars, as well as provide the technical assistance and professional development you are in need of. And also, our next webinar will be next Wednesday. It will be a professional development webinar based on getting the best out of leveraging your resources. That's next Wednesday, August 2nd, from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Now we will get started with the webinar, and I'm going to introduce Patty Long with CASAS. Patty, you can take it from here. Patty? Patty, are you there? Okay, participants, if you can hear me, please just type in the chat pod that you're able to hear me. Patty is having a bit of technical difficulties at this time, but she should be on very shortly. Again, thank you so much for joining our webinar today.
No. That one won't work with her Tops Pro. Hers doesn't work. One that she can use? Yeah.
It sounds like Patty is back on, and she will begin presenting any moment now.
No. She was on the Mac. She can't do the Mac, folks. She can't do the Mac. Okay.
Okay, Veronica, can you hear me? This is Melinda. I'm getting absolutely nothing.
Yes, I can.
You can? Okay, so you can hear me now? Please, someone tell me you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yes. Melinda?
Well, that was fun. All right.
Patty?
Yes.
Okay, Patty, it's all.
I kind of feel it's cutting in and out. Okay, so okay, good, Bronca, thank you. All right, so you have the handout that you can download off your screen, and this is a little worksheet with all of the explanations on it that we're going to go through today. And I am going to take you to My Tops Pro Enterprise, and you can follow along with your Cleaning Up Your Data Integrity Report handout. So let me share my screen and this. Now, just like last week when we were working on the Data Integrity Report, we're not going to go over absolutely everything, because a lot of this report is just telling you what is in your database. It's not right or wrong. It just is. So there's nothing to fix. There's nothing that you have to do. So I'm going to run this for 1617 and generate. So by staying in TE2, I'll be able to do a lot less of that going back and forth between the screens. So here's our data integrity report. And at the summary information at the top, We've got students in the services section, and that means, and I've gotten verification from the programmers, that means these are the students that are in your database, in your program, in your AEBG program. And why it's called in the services section, it has to do with one of the data tables. We'll work on changing the name. So for Rolling Hills, we've got 237 students in our AEBG program. Out of those, we have one student who is not enrolled in an AEBG program. So that is one that we do want to fix, unless we find out that he's just in there and he's not supposed to be in there. So I'm going to click on that number, and it's Annabelle Espinoza, and I'm going to open up her record and try to figure out why she's not in an AEBG program. My first guess would be that she doesn't have a program enrollment. Aha, and I am correct. You open up her record, you see that she has no program enrollment. So we're going to go to New, and we're going to, so it's actually all filled in. Where is her name? Well, I'm not going to worry about it. So we're going to put her in HSE. Date entered the program. I don't have an exact date, so we're going to go to July 1st, 2016. And I'm not going to worry about the date exited the program. And I'm going to click Save. Because I didn't do her right. Oh, I love how I start off this so well. No, I don't want to change anything. I want to make sure I'm in her record. Program enrollments. No. Well, we'll catch her up later, shall we? Love starting off with a fail. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go here to July 1st, 2016. I'm going to put her in high school diploma. What did I put her in? High school equivalency. So I want to put her in ASE High. And I want to put her in the program area of, there we go, HSE. So now I'm going to click Save. And I think this is the problem of my access to Rolling Hills. But I'm hoping that you see exactly how you'd fix that, and hopefully we don't have that problem with any of the rest of this. In order to get back to our data integrity report, again, we're just going to click on the wording in this orange bar, or salmon as it is. As we go through this list here of the summary information, we've got things that you just need to be aware of. So if you've had anybody that had these outcomes but weren't enrolled in an AEBG program, you need to go to that student record, and again, you just click on the number and add that program enrollment. Any questions so far? Again, this just gives you the snapshot of what's in your database. And so it's going to be the first 9 that we're going to be really concerned about getting cleaned up before you submit your data. So here we've got number 1, missing birth date or outside of ages 16 or 110. And remember, you can't really have anybody that's not 18. God bless you if you've got somebody 110 or over. But Autumn River never has a birth date. She is always our problem child. So we're going to go here, and I'm just going to go to her demographic data, so that just clicking on her name, this is my start point, because there are so many different ways that you can get to the information, but for Autumn River, that's, for me, that's easiest. And if I had rights, shoot, then I would be able to click that pencil. Let's do show all. No, I don't know about any of this aggregation tree. The tech guys have tried to explain it to me. I've just come to the point where I just click, and eventually the edit button will show up. Haha, like it did here. So I want to get her birth date in there. I click the pencil. And if you can't get to the pencil icon at all, you do want to contact the person at your agency that's in charge of TOPS Pro and make sure that you have access rights. And let's just make that March 4th. And once I make that change, I click Save. Oh, thank goodness it's working. Okay, so everybody was clear on that? Again, a great place to start is just with the student's demographic record. Click on that, and that'll take you right to the birth date. Any questions so far? Great. Okay, so now we get down to that less than 12 hours of instruction. And you see on your little cheat sheet, this should generally be very low. The goal is to not have most of your students have fewer than 12 hours of instruction, but it certainly happens. And again, just making sure if this list of students doesn't match what you think it should be, then this is where you're going to fix it. So I'm going to click on the 56, and here we get a list of all of those 56 students. Oh, why 57 here, huh? And you can sort these students by site, by student ID, or you can do, just by name, so they're in alphabetical order, however you like to work on any of this. And let's click on Amy. And we're going to go to program records, I believe. Maybe not. Class records. Attendance. That's what we're looking for here. So you can see that she has no attendance. So we want to go into her record. And if she actually does have attendance, but it just hasn't been put into the system, you want to add it here. And you can add accumulated attendance hours and just put in the total hours that that student has. Now, if the data is correct, then you're just going to leave it because, as I said, the data integrity report tells you not only what's wrong, but just what is. Any questions so far?
No questions,
okay, great.
Patty.
So again, these 2A and D, obviously a subset of 2, 0 or empty hours of instruction, and you might want to double check that to make sure that all of those students really don't have hours of instruction. And between 1 and 11 hours, that's it. Remember the ones that get reported, beyond this, we want to report all of our students that are in the system, but the ones that get on the tables are those with 12 hours or more for being in our classes. Number 3, no highest year of school or degree earned. And I have to go to my cheat sheet too. Okay, this should be very low. You should be collecting this on everybody. 3A and B, obviously a subset of. So no highest year of school. very rarely do you have students that have never been to school in the U.S. or in their home country. So again, this becomes an issue. We want to go back to the demographics. And I forgot to do this so I can get to the edit screen. Sorry. And here we want to mark, let's say he's had 8 years of schooling. It was inside the U.S. He doesn't have a highest degree or diploma yet. And it wasn't earned outside of the U.S. So we're fine with just this. We're going to click Save and go back. Now, the data integrity report doesn't automatically refresh. So we're still going to see that number 36 there, and we're still seeing the missing birth date there. All we have to do is go back and regenerate that report, and those changes that we made should show. Aha! So again, we fixed Autumn River's birth date, and we've corrected that one student, so now we're down to 35 with no highest year of school degree earned. Okay with that one? Yes.
Patty, we have a question. Sandy would like to know,
okay,
will students be dropped from the tables if years of school or highest degree missing?
It's possible. Honestly, I don't know that, but it's considered a required item, but I don't know if it's a drop reason. But a good thing to remember, and I'll add it to a help document and get an answer for you guys. Another question?
It looks like we have, Sandy said, thank you. It looks like we have another question coming in from Lucy. I'll let you know when it comes in.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so yes, you need to be collecting no highest year of school, degrees earned. No gender is a requirement. And again, we can go in and fix that, especially when the name is Lourdes. And I just want to go into, oh shoot, keep on forgetting to, just whenever that edit button shows up. I want to go to her demographic record. Okay, go ahead.
Lucy asks, we have about 22,000 students, or less than 22,000 students, so we are doing batch imports rather than hand entering people. It's not realistic for us to make corrections on individual students. Any suggestions?
Well, are you not collecting birth date and gender on and highest degree when the student enters your other program that you're carrying that data over?
She's typing now.
Because otherwise that becomes an issue for Neil's office. But this is part of the requirement for the grant.
Lucy says they are collecting this info, but we don't always get reliable or complete data.
Okay, well, that's not something that I can solve. But if you want to talk to Neil Kelly about it and see what he has to say, that's about all I can say. You report what you've got, hopefully more next year. Not the perfect answer. I know you wanted to hear, oh, it's okay. I don't think it is.
She says thank
Because again, it goes back to that. It goes back to that contract requirement for the AEBG money. Okay, so we're doing ethnicity, race, language. No, we're doing students' gender. So I can guess what the Lourdes. I can make a pretty good guess. However, that's not always feasible. I have stories. So just click save. And again, Lourdes will be taken care of. And I'm not going to regenerate yet. Labor force status is, oh, I wanted to go over, I'm sorry, race and ethnicity. Okay, so there's a couple of issues with race and ethnicity. You can end up with a lot of students here if your students mark Hispanic or Latino, but don't mark a race. So that's not necessarily an error in your data. That's just telling you that it's there. Any other ethnicity, then you need to mark race. But Hispanic or Latino is exempt from that. So let's take a look at who's here. And let's take a look at Sally, who seems to be our outlier. And again, we're going to go up. You'd think I'd figure it out by now. Seems to be our outlier. And so she has marked not Hispanic or Latino, but does not have a race marked. So you need to contact her, contact her teacher, or even any of her friends in the class to find out this information. And again, remember that the ethnicity and race question is a U.S. Census Bureau, and we're bound by these choices for collecting this data. And yes, this needs to be reported for AEBG. But again, if you've got a large number of students, or any students who've marked Hispanic or Latino and don't want to mark race, that's fine. You're not going to get dinged for that one. Well, not that you get dinged for any, but it just shows that you didn't collect it. Any questions about that one? Because that one always seems to be a little iffy with everybody.
No questions, Patty.
Okay. Total labor force status. So total labor force status on our report is where it throws everybody off, because now we're looking at missing, no, 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 and then all of a sudden, oh, total reported labor force status. Everybody that walks in your door should have a labor force status. My understanding of the underlying rule of AEBG is that if they can get to your class, they can work, so that we no longer have retired. But you can put not in labor force. So again, what you want to look at is number 6E, total missing labor force status. We've got 101 people. We've got almost half of our population that we don't have a labor force status for. Again, AEBG wants to see those gains that students have made from either not being in the workforce to being in the workforce, or being in a job and getting a better job, a living wage job, or whatever they might do. So this is important to have this information. Again, you can double click on that, and sure. And you can see all of the people that don't have labor force status. Again, we can do it by alphabetical order by first name. I will show you a little trick that might help. You can right-click on this gray bar, and let's add in first name, and let's add in last name, and then we're going to hide full name. And in fact, I want the last name in my column first, so I'm going to click drag and drop. And that didn't seem to work, did it? Oh, yes, it did. Some of the names were a little screwy looking to me. So I want this by alpha order. And then we can add show. Oh, I was hoping for show labor force status. Oh, well. You can ask it to show you by program area. So you can at least work by all of the ESL classes and then all of the ABE classes, however you want to do it. You can export this list to an Excel spreadsheet and divide it up however you'd like to work on it. And of course it's not going to, there we go, export right there. Or to a Word document. You can divide it up by classes, whatever you want to do to try to get all of that information. I'm just checking my notes. Hold on just a sec. Okay. No pretest. This was a little loosey-goosey this year. So some agencies tested, others didn't. And here we are at almost half the students with no pretest. That's an issue because remember you want to get that pretest as soon as they walk in the door. You want that lowest possible score so that your agency can get credit for all of the gains that they make while they're in your program. If you wait to give a pretest, you're going to lose some of those points. So no post-test, one of the hardest things we've got to do. And here we're at 67%. That's not great, but sadly it's not unheard of. But if you have one of these tests that isn't in the system, for example, a teacher comes to you and says, oh, look what I found in my car. And I'm not saying that that was me that did that at an agency. I'm just saying that it can happen. Oh, good. So you can go into the student's record. Here it's a lot easier. You go to tests, and let's say that they've got a test for this guy that happened after October that they just found in their car. And you'd want to put in all of the student's information here. Why does it not want to do that? I want a new test just for this student. Oh, and there's a question.
Yes.
Yes.
Patty, the question is, our pretest percentage is on the high side because we don't test for CTE or other programs such as Spanish and yoga, etc. Will this be a problem?
Remember, the only classes that you need to test are ESL, ABE, and ASE. So you don't test the Spanish students. You don't test the CTE students. Those people are exempt. I expect big smiles after that answer. Oh, and I do have our programmers looking into the DIR to make sure that only the students that are in ESL, ABE, or ASE are showing up in that students with no pretest. Because there has been a question of, I think it's taking all of our students. So again, I had to pick this guy with the funny test.
Yes. Patty, Deborah would like to know, you do or do not need to test ESL
You
students?
do need to test ESL students. ESL, ABE, ASE. This year people were getting started, so they didn't have everything, and that was kind of a problem. And I know they're, making exceptions to a certain extent for people, but again, definitely a Neil type question. So if you've got a test to input, you could put in the assessment date, put in the had to pick this guy. Let me pick a different guy. Let me click Maria and edit and test. And I want to add, she has no tests at all. So here, finally, it pops in with the student's name. So let's put her in ESL low. I didn't remember what it said. Let's say what the assessment date was July a year ago, because that teacher hasn't cleaned up their car. Again, sounds familiar. Yes.
Patty, we have a question. GED Spanish students do not have to be tested.
Right. We only test for, well, that's kind of a weird. Are you running just a GED class for Spanish speakers and in Spanish? Okay, so
yes.
No, that's not part of the, well, it's not part of the WIOA program, but I don't believe it's part of the AEBG program either. Maybe check with Neil on that one.
And for to piggyback on Jean's question, her original question was our pretest percentage is on the high side because we don't test for CTE or other programs such as Spanish, yoga, etc. She said she was asking about students who are learning Spanish.
No, because well, at least the CASAS test doesn't test Spanish skills. So I would say no. It's part of a federal program. It's getting the students to learn English so they can get better jobs and all of that.
Laura would like to know, do Spanish citizen students need to be pre and post tested?
Are they in an ESL class? Okay,
No.
then no. No. But again, we'll get clarification from Neil. But let me make a note real quick. Spanish learners. Because I don't believe either of those fall into any of the 7 AEBG categories. And again, the only ones that would be tested would be those students that are in ESL, in ABE, or ASE. If you've got some class going on like AEB Spanish, that's completely different. That doesn't fall under the requirements of AEBG.
Laura says she learned the other day that citizenship class falls under ESL.
Yes.
Is that correct?
With the idea that that citizenship class is taught in English. It can have Spanish support, but it has to be taught in English.
Laura's Diana wants to know, is citizenship taught in English or another language?
Citizenship is taught in English.
And Laura would like to know, so do we pre and post test?
Yes,
post test?
because it's an ESL class. It's a special program under ESL, so yes.
And Janice would like to know, I have questions about POP. Are we going
No,
to cover that?
Because the periods of participation, first of all, I don't want to get into it. And second of all, we don't have to worry about it until we get closer to October, because you're not going to have any students that are out for 90 or more days until we hit about October. So we'll be doing lots of training on it. Let me just tell you, for the short version is that TE is going to track all of it. It's not anything you have to keep a tally on. But no, definitely not dealing with periods of participation today.
Janice says that they are losing points on it now. It's reducing their payment.
Their payment points? Well, you don't have payment points in AEBG.
No, she just said it is reducing our payment.
Payments. Well, I'm not too sure.
Oh, she said sorry,
Oh,
games.
games. Yeah, don't worry. I know that the periods of participation are enforced on the DIR, But for the 16-17 year, it's at our end at CASAS, it's going to be taken out. So you'll get credit for all of your people. I know it's a little disconcerting to see those numbers like that, but periods of participation will not affect anybody in the 16-17 year, even though it's showing on your report. And I know that's annoying. What you can do is go in to reports and let's see if we can find it here. You can go to archived reports. And I don't think that's the one I want. Yeah, go to the data management, and you can look at the old data integrity report before periods of participation were addressed. And while I know that this is the one for WIOA, it will at least show you that the students are getting credit for whatever gains they've made, and the data integrity detail also. We've just got a little bit of growing pains going on. Yeah.
Janice asked if you can please tell tech support what you just stated regarding the periods of participation.
Hey, Janice, can you send me an email to remind me in a couple of hours to do that, because I'll totally forget. But I definitely will.
And Stacy asks, so is it to be expected that our AEBG DIR won't match our WIOA DIR because of periods of participation?
Well, and that's not the only thing that it's not going to match. I mean, it's going to include the counts from all these other programs that you've got going on too. The parents supporting student success and any CTE classes, so they're not going to match. But your pre and post testing should match because you're running both programs in both contracts. Okay, so let me just show you how to input a wayward test really quick. You want to go down and choose the test that you're giving, and let me just do 083R, and that'll be faster. And then you can do a score override and just put in the total amount that they got correct, or you can go down here and add in the actual answers. Yeah, I've got to get rid of this guy. And you can add in the answers that the student actually put in, and you can do that by ABCD is 1, 2, 3, 4 on your keyboard, and it goes really fast and automatically, goes to, of course it doesn't want to for me today, we'll go to the next item. So it's very quick to put that in, but you can always do the score override. Just type in the raw score. Let's say the test had, about 36 questions on it, and the student answered 27 correctly, and it will generate usually a scale score, but for some reason it's not today. Oh, maybe after I save it. Now the retested, just because it's here, if you have a student who pretests and pretests with too low of a score, I mean they don't even register a scale score because they only got 2 or 3 right, you can mark retested here for that test and then test them again at a lower level, and it will ignore this first test. You never want to delete. So let's see what happens when I save, and does it come up with a raw score? Yes, or scale score? Yes, it does. 226. Very good. All right. So no pre-test, no post-test. Again, you've got the information on your cheat sheet to be able to go in and add that information in. So learners with a pre and a post pair, that's good information. That's a plus. Sorry, let's go down to 72. And considering that we have 238 registered in this AEBG program, that should be a little higher. Learners with a pre-post test pair. Okay, and again for 11 through 12, these are all just information for you. So not anything that you have to fix. It's giving you learners with a pre-post pair but have not completed the level. Well, then you know that you're going to keep testing those people until they get that complete a level. And that's what I was going to bring for you today, was the NRS sheet that tells you when they complete a level. Yes?
Patty, there's a question. Are we going to cover some of the items that are new, like IET line 16?
No, not that one. Because those are coming. We're just trying to get you up to date on what you need to fix for this year's data submission. And again, learners in, well, let me get there. Let me just get there first. So achieved literacy gain. So we've got achieved literacy gain with Carnegie units, which isn't implemented yet, and with post-secondary outcomes, which isn't implemented yet. Passed high school equivalency. So if you have no numbers here, but you have students that have passed the GED, you need to go in, find those students in your data, and make sure to mark that they passed the high school equivalency exam. You go into their demographic data. I'm sorry, you just go into their name. It will pop up a screen for them, and you have that choice of hitting Add Entry Update. You want to do that and scroll down and put that outcome. But if that outcome isn't there, it's not going to show on here, nor are you going to get credit for it. So past HSE, but instructional program is not HSE. This is just telling you what is, because you can have students in your higher level ESL classes who pass the Spanish GED. You want to take credit for that. So just make sure that those are the only ones that appear under here. Pass.
Patty?
Yes.
There's a question.
Okay.
We have a lot of CTE classes that are under 12 hours because the students can select the classes that will apply to them to get a job. So if a student takes 2 8-hour classes, will that not be counted because it has to be 12 hours for one class?
No, the hours, regardless of class or program, will stack. So that student will have 16 hours, so they'll be able to be reported. Okay, sorry. So if your student comes into your program and they have declared that they've earned a high school equivalency or high school diploma or higher, they're not qualified for HSE. So you want to go back in and make sure that this information is correct in their data. Did they mark that they've earned a high school equivalency when they were really thinking that they want to earn a high school equivalency test? You need to make sure to change that. Earned high school diploma, great. Again, we've got one there. Earned high school diploma, but instructional program is not high school diploma. That you need to check and make sure that they're enrolled in the high school diploma program area. We're not going to deal with periods of participation. Again, it's just giving you information that we're going to ignore this year. And again, learners with 91 to 100 hours between dates of service and 80 to 89 dates of service, between dates of service. This is a way for you to track that information once we start dealing with it. But that could be another whole hour, just going over periods of participation. Learners enrolled in integrated education training. We have a lot of classes going on like that. So they're taking an ESL class with a Microsoft Office training at the same time. So those students are going to be counted there. And no, I don't know the specifics about IET on its own. I'm just getting the IELCE down. So again, we're not worrying about this until this year's data, the 17-18 data. No primary goal, no secondary goal are not required, but strongly suggested. And it's strongly suggested so that you, as the agency, can make sure you're on track with what the students' goals are. Are you giving them what they need, what they want, and giving them the information that you need? I know you'll have students that want to get their high school equivalency, and again, as my example before, the person hasn't been in school since the 9th grade, has been out for 30 years, and their primary goal is to get their high school equivalency. That might be more of a secondary goal. The primary goal would probably be increase basic skills. What can they do within this fiscal year? But certainly not ignoring their ultimate goal. And this can help you too if you've got a neighboring agency that can serve that student better, more in line with their goals. Now, number 19, barriers to employment, are learners with at least one barrier to employment. And let me scroll down a little bit so you can see that. With at least one barrier to employment. Now, out of 230 some odd students, you only have 8 students that have a barrier to employment. My suspicion would be that that number should be a lot higher. Why are they at your agency if they have no barriers to employment? Now, there's going to be some that there's not going to be a choice for in those barriers to employment. But you want to mark, this is a big part of AEBG, you want to mark as many as apply to the students. Again, the question's going to come up if you've got students, that many students with no barriers to employment, what services are you offering them that they don't need to get a job or a better job? Just saying, that's what the question's going to be. Number 20 is just FYI, that you had the information that these students are co-enrolled. Nothing is required. Again, just FYI for 21, learners with a pretest in the conservative estimate range. I'm sorry, is there a question?
No
Okay.
question.
Okay, I just heard somebody in the background. Learners with a pretest in the conservative estimate range, this means that their score was very high. These happen. But you want to make sure that the number stays low. And I believe we're using like 10% of your total population should be falling in this. And the reason is, if you're giving an appropriate appraisal and you're giving the appropriate pretest, one that's not too easy for them, then you're not going to end up with that many that fall into this category. You will always have some people in here because you get those students that are just totally freaked out by having to test at all, and so they freak out on the appraisal test, and so they end up getting a little lower test than they probably should have. Once they get into the leveled test, then they just breeze through it. If you have the time and the staff, you probably want to retest them at a higher level right away. But if not, these scores are still fine. They're still valid. 22A, learners with a pre and a post-test pair, but less than 40 hours, sorry, fewer than 40 hours. I'm working with the programmers. I'm trying to fix their grammar. With fewer than 40 hours of instruction. Here we've got 18 people. The goal is, and the rule is, everybody needs to have, at a bare minimum, 40 hours of instruction, but we'd also prefer to get a test from a student if they're leaving before those 40 hours. The issue is with this is that you have to have all of these students approved by your administration. And for approval, you need to, there is an easy way to do this. Remember I showed you that export button? You can export these students to a Word or an Excel document and then have your administrator sign that testing these students before 40 hours was approved by her, him, and just keep that document on file. That's an easy way to do it, so you don't have to keep lists. You just go ahead and download this into an Excel spreadsheet. Learners without a pre and post test pair but more than 40 hours of instruction, these aren't ones that you necessarily want to test right away, but it's a good one to eyeball to know that, oh, I've got those people ready to post test as soon as they have a few more hours. All right, so now we've got achieved AEBG outcome for high school diploma, high school equivalency. We've only got one there, and if you know that you had more than one student that achieved their high school diploma or high school equivalency, then you need to make sure that those students get added to the database or that they get endorsed on that update record for that learning outcome, that educational outcome, that they've done that.
Patty,
Okay.
there's a question. Here's a scenario. We enroll a student and pretest. They leave before 40 hours. No post-test. Will that student be captured in the pretest number?
Yeah, if they had a pretest, absolutely. So you want to make sure that you've got all of their demographics and everything too. Oh, okay. Let's see. So here's where it starts getting interesting again in your data. So here it says that you've marked that this student got a high school diploma or a high school equivalency, but they didn't qualify for ABE. What do students need to qualify for ABE? They need at least 12 hours of instruction. They need to be enrolled in a class and a program, and you need to have the demographics for them. So let's find, because I practiced this last night, so I could make sure my data didn't come up with nothing. Marked employment outcome, but did not qualify for AEBG. We want to see those students and see what's going on. Oh, which one did I do? Oh, Sally shows up again. All right. And now I've already forgotten what it said. Marked employment outcome. Okay, good. So I want to go. I thought I wrote myself a note. Oh, Lord. So we want to do, I think, class records. And we can see what reason Josh may not be qualified for AEBG. He has no hours of instruction. Now, there is another way that you can get this information without phishing. And by that, I mean without going to his attendance to make sure he had enough attendance, going to his program area to make sure he was enrolled in a program. On this, you can right-click on these numbers, and you will get different listers or put in a different way. These have changed quite a bit since the old DIR that was just there a couple of months ago. So we can go to what I want to do. The easiest one and the one that I like is that drill down to NRS monitor. So we're going to go there, and it's only going to show those 3 students that showed up on that screen. And we can see right away that Leo has a drop code of 2, which means, oh, I did put a note in here for myself. Good. And that means that he just doesn't have hours, right? He's been enrolled. He's enrolled in a program. He's tested, but he has no hours, which is a little odd. So you want to double check that. Sally Mortimer has been dropped from not qualifying for AEBG. And I put the drop codes in your cheat sheet. And number 5 is because she doesn't have ethnicity or race. And that will drop her from the tables. So you want to go in and fix her.
Patty, there's a question. Jean asks, my My 24B says marked post-secondary outcome for AEBG but did not qualify for AEBG. I don't have the employment one listed. Is there two 24Bs?
There is, let's go back. This was just an example for all of these that come under number, let's see, what is it? Number 23, right? So 23A is achieved the outcome, but 23B is marked the outcome but didn't qualify. 24B is marked employment outcome but didn't qualify. And then 24, oh, I see that there are two 24Bs. Oh, I get to tell the tech guys. I always love when I can tell the tech guys that there's a boo-boo. So thank you very much for that. So yes, marked post-secondary outcome for AEBG, but it did not qualify. So again, the point of all of this is that you can go down and see all of that information on the students very easily and to see why they didn't qualify, to be able to fix their records so that they then will qualify for AEBG, because now that you've got these lovely outcomes, you certainly want to make sure that they're included. So thank you for pointing out that. That's fun. Okay, so again, we continue with outcomes for employment but didn't qualify for AEBG, outcomes for transition to post-secondary but didn't qualify for AEBG. So on this one guy, I'm still going to go down to that NRS monitor because I like seeing all of the information at once. And here we can see it's still Josh. So still not enough hours. In fact, no hours. So you want to go in, and if he had hours, and if his gender is correct, or it could be just, you know, a hip name for the girl, you want to make sure, go ahead and fix all of that data. So that's the big one on those through 23 through 26. And really, those are the ones that you need to fix. A lot of it is just information for you. But we've got time for questions if anybody has any more questions. You've been asking great questions, keeping me on my toes.
So far, no more questions, Patty.
Okay, so if there aren't any more questions, I'm just going to tell you that you can email me. I have a meeting with somebody at 3 o'clock today to go over their DIR. I will be out of the office for part of next week, but I'll be checking my emails, so if you're desperate and you want to go through it, I'll be happy to do that. Just email me. It's so much better than calling because sometimes I ignore the phone. Just because it's ringing so much, and it does leave me messages. But plong@casas.org, P-L-O-N-G, and I will get back to you and help you out with any questions you've got.
Patty, there's one question. Is there a document describing the table summary columns on the website?
Table summary columns. Table summary columns. I'm not too sure what that is.
AEBG table summary.
Oh, yeah, we did that the other day. But no, we don't have a document yet. But didn't we do that on a week ago Wednesday? And, I mean, we can certainly review now for anybody that wants to review. I'm not sure I have all of the answers, but I can do the summary one.
Janice says an updated document would be very helpful.
An updated what document?
Maybe the AEBG table summary.
Oh, this was just updated like last Wednesday or last Friday. Last Wednesday. I got the newest version. There is no more updates for now. All right, and then I do want to point out here under services, the enrollees, these are your total enrollees. These are the ones that are showing up in the Students and Services section on your AEBG DIR. And I hope they're the same. 238, 239. Oh, they're duplicated. So, got one student out there. So did you have a specific question about the summary tables?
She's typing now, but before that question, Patty, Jean would like to know, we are only submitting just the DIR, correct?
Just the DIR, correct, for CASAS. I know you guys have a bunch of other stuff due, but for your data that's in TE, it's just the AEBG DIR, and you want to make sure to export it as a PDF and email it to aebg@casas.org.
Sandy just wondered what was included in each of the columns, like why C might not match my pay point gain number, etc.
You mean your learning gains? Because we don't do payment points, Sandy. And no, I'm not too sure how these filter in. I assume somebody's typing.
Yes, Sandy said, oh, that's right. And Stacy asks, I have students with listening tests that are showing up on the missing pretest list. Is this a tech support question?
It could be. What listening test are you using? And let's just put it this way, if it's not the 980 series, Life and Work, then it's not going to register. In this. That's the only one.
They tested on e-test and were given an 83L and an 85L.
Oh, that's not good. The 83 series of listening is not approved by the NRS. It's the 900 Life and Work listening series that is approved, so that's why it's not showing. Did you also give reading tests to those students, hopefully? And this year, I don't think you've got a lot to worry about, but make sure that that's not endorsed on your e-testing system. I love the questions because they're really good.
Stacy says, no, they were just in a listening and speaking class, so how do I change this on e-test?
That I don't know. I'm not an e-test person. But you can contact tech support, and they'll tell you how to endorse the test that you need to use for AEBG and WIOA, which are the same. So yes, you were right to give a listening test. It's just that you gave the wrong one.
Deborah asks, should we be using the math test when doing e-testing?
If your students are in ABE or ASE, that's the appropriate test to give. If they're lacking skills in math, I mean, if it gives you a good idea of what they need. And so you can give the reading and the math to your ABE, ASE students. And you can, the reading and math, or reading or math. You only have to give one, but more the better, because you get more informed about the student and what their needs are. And I'm pretty sure, like payment points for WIOA, you don't get credit for gains in both tests for a single student. It's going to take, TOPS Enterprise will take the pre-post test pair that match and that have the most gains and use that for reporting.
Deborah says, okay, so if we are doing both e-tests, English and math, should we be doing both tests when we are post-testing?
If you have a pre-test in one, you need to do the post-test in the same modality, reading and or math. You don't have to post-test if you're post-test with both tests, but you definitely need to post-test with one. I think students want to see how they've done in both areas that they're studying.
Deborah says, very good, thank you.
Oh, good. All right. And I'm taking notes of everything. I've got notes from the previous workshop, so I'm going to have a help document for you for this year. A little short, sweet, and because I hate the technical detail, there won't be a lot of technical detail, but just what you need to mark, what you need to collect, and address some of these questions that you guys have had, which are great questions. If you have any more, you can always email me. But you have to give me a little bit of time to put it together. I do think this DIR document helps.
Okay, Patty, it looks like we do not have any more questions.
Okay, great. So I'm going to let you guys go. Again, if you've got any questions, just drop me an email, and I'll get back to you as quick as possible. Thanks so much for coming today.
Thank you, Patty, and thanks to all of the participants for participating in this webinar today. Our next webinar will be next Wednesday, August 2nd from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. It will be a professional development webinar on getting the most out of leveraging resources. If there are any support requests for the AEBG office, please submit them on the website and visit the support page by clicking on the request button. If you need to reach any staff at AEBG tab, please call 888-827-2324 or email us at tab@aebg.org. As soon as this presentation closes, you will receive an evaluation pop up on your screen. Please fill out this evaluation. It is very important to us as we are attempting to make improvements to our webinars and provide you with the professional development and technical assistance you would like. Thank you again for participating, and have a great afternoon.